Hi, it's Dr. Phoenix. Today we're going to be looking at photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is extremely important because it gives us the food that we eat and the oxygen that we breathe. So for me, I like to eat and I like to breathe. So photosynthesis is something that I really appreciate. Now, photosynthesis can be broken down into two words, if you will. Photo meaning light and synthesis meaning to make. So photosynthesis is using light to make carbohydrates. And in essence, photosynthesis takes carbon dioxide out of the air, which is absorbed through the leaves, and water, which is brought up through the roots into the plant. And light is used as an energy source to combine carbon dioxide and water to create carbohydrates and oxygen. So let's look at photosynthesis in a little more detail now. Here's the equation. Photosynthesis is 6 carbon dioxide molecules combining with 6 water molecules with light as its energy source to form C6H12O6, which is glucose, plus 6 oxygens. Okay. Writing out the formula in just words, carbon dioxide plus water with light as the energy source creates glucose, or sugars we can just say, plus oxygen. Now, photosynthesis takes place in plants, obviously, and you should recall from studying the cell last week that photosynthesis takes place in organelles called chloroplasts. These are the green organelles that give plants their color. And when we looked at the plant cells under the microscope, we saw the organelles, and some of you even saw the organelles moving like this. These are plant cells, and you can see the little green chloroplasts actually streaming around inside the plant cells, and they're moving toward the light. Okay, they're trying to arrange themselves in such a way to capture the most light. So chloroplasts are the location of photosynthesis. Now, chloroplasts obviously look very tiny, and even under the microscope they're very small, but when you blow them up, they have some structural parts that we need to be aware of. The chloroplasts have an outer and an inner membrane. That inner membrane takes on certain folds, and they form what looks like coins almost, and those coins or folds of membrane are called thylakoids. And these thylakoids will arrange themselves in stacks, and those stacks of thylakoids are called a granum. A granum is a stack of thylakoids. And inside the chloroplast surrounding these thylakoids is a liquid or a fluid, and that's called the stroma. The stroma. Okay, so as we continue to zoom in on a thylakoid, we can see that the thylakoid actually has a membrane, and built into the membrane are pigments. Now, the purpose of pigments are to absorb light, and different color pigments absorb different colors of light. The primary pigments in the thylakoid membranes are chlorophyll. There's a chlorophyll A and a chlorophyll B molecule, and there could be some other pigments as well, in this case carotenoids, which is a yellow-orange pigment. But the pigments are what give plants their color, and since most plants are green, chlorophyll is the primary component of most of the pigments. And chlorophyll is the most important pigment in photosynthesis, because what chlorophyll does is this. Chlorophyll absorbs light very well. And again, we know that chlorophyll is green, and since it's green, that means it reflects the green. But that means it absorbs the other colors of the spectrum. So chlorophyll absorbs all these colors over here and all these colors over here. So it absorbs the blue and the red very well, but not the green. The green is reflected. All right, this graph shows again chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Both are absorbing the blue part of the spectrum and the red part of the spectrum very well, but not so much the green. So chlorophyll absorbs light very well, and the reason that plants appear green is because of chlorophyll reflecting the green. All right, so here is a diagram of a chloroplast, and what I'm going to show you next are the two stages of photosynthesis. And if you are able to label this diagram as I'm going to do, then you will be able to answer any question that I'm going to ask you about photosynthesis. All right, so pay attention to what I'm doing, and then I'm going to show you where you can practice this. And if you'll do it several times, you'll get the hang of it, and you'll become very proficient in photosynthesis. All right, so here's our chloroplast, and the first stage of photosynthesis is called the light-dependent reaction because it does require light. And it takes place in the thylakoids. Again, the thylakoids are stacked up, and that's called a granum. And what happens during the light-dependent reaction is light is absorbed by these thylakoids. Remember, the pigments, chlorophyll, are going to absorb light, and they're going to absorb the energy from the light. And that energy is going to be able to split water. All right? The hydrogen and the oxygen are going to come apart because of the energy in the light. The oxygen is going to be released, and you should recall that oxygen is a product of photosynthesis, so that is going to end up going out into the atmosphere. That's what we breathe. And the hydrogens and some electrons are going to result from this splitting, and the hydrogens are going to end up right here in a molecule called NADPH. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in just a minute. And the electrons also will be in here. And in the process also we're going to create some energy in the form of ATP. So the energy that drives the light-dependent reaction is light, and it creates some more energy in the form of ATP and NADPH, and that energy is going to be what's used to drive the second phase of photosynthesis, and that is called the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle occurs in the stroma of the chloroplast, and during the Calvin cycle, now we get our carbon dioxide coming in, and as carbon dioxide comes into the Calvin cycle, one by one, the carbon dioxides are going to be put together and ultimately create sugar, glucose, C6H12O6. So 6 carbon dioxide molecules are needed to form one glucose molecule. Remember, glucose has 6 carbons, so we need 6 carbon dioxides to form that glucose molecule. Okay, so the energy that's used to drive this cycle again came from the light-dependent reaction in the form of ATP and NADPH. That energy is going to combine these carbons together to form sugar, and when it's all said and done, ATP will be broken down into ADP and a phosphate, and the NADPH is going to be reduced down to NADP+. The hydrogens are going to come off. They're going to end up as part of the sugar here, and this cycle will continue. All right, the NADP plus and the ADP will be recharged in the light-dependent reaction to be reused again. Okay, So, let me move my picture out of the way, and I'm going to pull up a Excel file that I created for you guys, and this is on the website and on my big campus, and this is exactly what I have just been showing you. And if you will just let me reduce the size of my picture here for a minute. If you will just follow the instructions in this paragraph here and try to fill in this chloroplast one block at a time, you will be able to do what I just did. So for instance, photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast of the cell. The first reaction is called the number 1. All right, so drag what that is. The first reaction is called the light reaction. So let's drag that over here, which takes place in the number 2, in the thylakoid, number 2. And a stack of these is called a granum. Number 4 energizes chlorophyll in the thylakoid membrane. Number 4 energizes chlorophyll. Well, that would be sunlight, which will split number 5 and release number 6, which will split number 5, well, that's water, and release number 6, that's oxygen. This reaction creates high energy electrons, which are carried by number 7, which is NADPH, and an energy molecule, ATP, number 8, which provides the energy for the next reaction called the Calvin cycle. This cycle takes place in the number 10 of the chloroplast, the stroma. 11 enters this cycle and is combined with more of the same kind of molecules to produce number 12. 11, carbon dioxide enters to create sugar, number 12. The ATP and NADPH used as energy is released and returned to the light reaction to be recharged as 13 and 14. And 14. Okay. So as you can see, if you can label this diagram, then you'll be able to answer any question about photosynthesis that I will ask you. As you interpret this, keep in mind that any arrows coming in would be reactants. Remember the equation for photosynthesis is carbon dioxide plus water and light. Okay, these are arrows coming in, these are the reactants, and arrows going out are the products. So here's the equation, carbon dioxide plus water plus light yields sugar and oxygen. Okay? All right, I hope that's helpful to you, and I hope that you will practice labeling this diagram again. If you can get good at it, you will do great on your photosynthesis quiz and on your test. All right, so shoot me some questions on my big campus if you have any, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Thank you very much and have a great day.